Hello, my name is Tammy Dana-Bashian, Mayor for the City of Rowlett. Usually when I present the state of the city, it's here in the Rowlett City Council chambers in front of Rowlett City Council, city staff, and citizens. And the seats behind me are full. But as we all know, this year is different. This is my fourth State of the City address, a time for me to share with you the past, present, and future of our city. Although we have just navigated an unprecedented year, 2020 also presented many opportunities for the members of our community to care for one another. We met each hurdle head-on with empathy and determination, the Rowlett way. Our citizens, you, showed care and compassion, support for our local businesses, and a concern for doing the right thing. I couldn't be more proud to serve as your mayor. So this year, let us celebrate all of our strength and stamina, our resilience and resolve. Our city faced many challenges, adapting to each with the safety and health of our citizens at the forefront. And now, Rowlett is well positioned for the future. Thank you for joining me as we celebrate Rowlett and look forward to the great things ahead. The City of Rowlett has weathered the financial impact of COVID-19 better than many other municipalities who rely more on tourism and retail. Still, the pandemic has had a negative financial impact on the city, which in turn made this an extremely challenging budget year. Regardless, your City Council prioritized the need to lower the property tax rate to combat the economic downturn impacting so many of our residents, as well as to provide relief from increased Central Appraisal District home valuations experienced by our community once again. We ultimately were able to reduce the property tax rate by 1.2 cents in the current year, and this, coupled with other tax rate reductions over the last 4 years, has resulted in a city property tax rate at its lowest level since 2005. But this has not come without a cost. We were not able to provide raises to our incredible city staff during the regular budget process, and we were forced to forego adding needed staffing positions in several key areas. Another item of good news on the budget front is that we were again able to lower water rates for the second year in a row, this time by an additional 5%. We are thrilled to be able to provide this financial relief to our citizens, especially during these difficult times. And speaking of water rates, over the past 19 years, Rowlett citizens have paid over $21 million to the North Texas Municipal Water District for over 11 billion gallons of water that was not received or used by Rowlett residents or businesses under the Water District's take-or-pay methodology that is in place for all member and customer cities. 2020 brought a resolution to a years-long dispute over this methodology for the 13 member cities of the Water District. As a customer city of the Water District, Rowlett was not allowed to be a party to the negotiated settlement. However, in November, the Water District's Board of Directors voted to offer the same terms and conditions to customer cities such as Rowlett. Under the settlement, the implementation of a more equitable methodology will be phased in over a 13-year time period. Ultimately, it will include a 5-year rolling average, which is viewed more favorably for the Rowlett community as it removes certain peak years that could penalize a city in perpetuity. While this is great news for the residents of Rowlett over the long term, I do want to caution that 13 years is a very long phase-in period. And as a result, residents of cities such as Rowlett that suffer under the take-or-pay methodology will continue to pay high water rates until this new methodology is fully implemented. We look forward to continuing our vigorous advocacy on behalf of Rowlett citizens and will now begin the next phase and work with the Water District to ensure our community participates in the revised wholesale water rate terms afforded the member cities. The COVID-19 virus impacted every facet of our community like nothing in the past 100 years. It has caused upheaval in our workplaces, our homes, and our social lives. Businesses have shut down, jobs have been lost, our residents have become sick, and too many of our loved ones have lost their lives. Navigating local, regional, state, and federal response to COVID-19 is a full-time undertaking by our entire city staff, but most specifically by our emergency management and public health teams. At the forefront of this team is Service Employee of the Year, Ed Balderas, our Emergency Management Coordinator. Ed has worked with the Texas Division of Emergency Management and our health authority, Garland Health, to manage all aspects of this crisis, including staying up to date with constantly changing information and keeping our entire community informed. Ed has spearheaded the myriad challenging priorities, including managing funding sources and uses, and procuring stockpiles of personal protection equipment and other essential supplies for the city, as well as our local health partners, including nursing home staffs throughout our community. I can't express enough appreciation for the entire city staff that continues to work at the forefront of this crisis to keep our residents informed and as safe as humanly possible. Funds received by the city through the U.S. Treasury's Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, also known as the CARES Act, have directly benefited many of our residents and businesses. We have been able to provide direct assistance to Life Message and the Hope in Hand Food Pantry, two resources that have been instrumental feeding our community during the pandemic. We have increased our financial support to the Salvation Army, which provides direct utility and rent mortgage assistance to Rowlett residents through a program developed and funded by the city. Through our robust grant program, we have provided $604,000 in grants to over 90 Rowlett businesses. And we have developed and funded an additional individual household assistance program administered by Catholic Charities of Dallas that has provided $65,000 to 27 Rowlett households negatively impacted by COVID-19. The Payroll Protection Program has also been incredibly important to our business community. 675 businesses in Rowlett received help through this program, with assistance ranging from a few $1,000s to several $100,000 based on their needs. I would like to specifically recognize and show appreciation to our Rowlett Chamber of Commerce, which has been so instrumental in helping our business community navigate through the complex federal and state regulations during this pandemic. Carrying forward a vision after the 2015 tornado, in early 2020, the city formed a community organization active in disasters group, also referred to as a COAD. This organization brings together city, local nonprofits, and churches, and the business community to respond in the aftermath of a disaster. Formalization of our COAD could not have come at a better time, as the pandemic hit shortly thereafter. One of the first things the COAD did was to offer resources to seniors, as well as those with emotional or spiritual needs. With the help of over 70 volunteers, including many from the Rowlett Citizen Corps Council, they called over 3,000 senior citizens in Rowlett for a welfare check, just to make sure they were okay. The COAD also assists families in quarantine with necessary supplies, which helps keep the rest of our community safe. Very early on during the pandemic, our fire department developed and implemented the telemed program in Rowlett. Working with dispatchers, potential COVID patients are screened at the initial 911 call, followed by a face-to-face consultation via streaming video with a paramedic who evaluates their condition and deploys specific resources to meet the needs of that particular patient. This program reduced exposure to first responders and the public in general. The telemed program has proven to be very successful, and the Rowlett Fire Department received requests from fire departments nationwide on how to set up their own telemed programs. Fire medic teams also deserve recognition for innovatively retrofitting a dedicated COVID-19 medic unit to save precious minutes due to the inordinate amount of time it takes to decontaminate a unit. To continue the great level of service that our citizens have come to expect from the Rowlett Municipal Court, they created an innovative virtual court docket process, receiving compliments from our citizens for its ease of use, as well as high praises from attorneys and judges across the state of Texas for its efficiency. As a result, our court services have remained available and open for business during the pandemic. The Rowlett Public Library team is to be commended for their outstanding virtual storytime, summer reading and curbside pickup programs, and digital library cards which kept people entertained and engaged while staying safe. Special events were certainly impacted this past year, but the Parks and Recreation staff got creative with events like the drive-in movies on Main, drive-through trunk or treat, virtual Veterans Day, and the virtual 12 Days of Christmas. The staff offered virtual bingo and at-home workout programs to keep citizens engaged and active. And the parks maintenance teams worked extraordinary schedules to keep our parks open and playground equipment sanitized for the safety of our children. As soon as it is safe for everyone, we look forward to once again hosting our fantastic special events and gathering together as a community. Public Works kept our city functioning while continuing to make significant infrastructure improvements while navigating the need for flexible scheduling and social distancing. And our building maintenance teams were at the forefront to make sure our buildings were safe, not only for our employees, but also for our public utilizing city services. Our IT department once again proved to be invaluable by enabling and equipping staff to work from home while supporting in numerous virtual meetings necessary to keep city business running uninterrupted. And our virtual council and planning and zoning meetings were broadcast live to cable channel RTN 16 and streaming video with closed captioning. And archived meetings were available the following day on Rowlett.com. Never before has timely and effective communication been more critical than during the past year. I am so proud and appreciative of our communications team that kept our entire community timely informed through our various platforms, including our website, our social media platforms, RTN 16, and streaming video, as well as our weekly and monthly newsletters. This city is no stranger to working through the financial aspects of a disaster. Regardless, this pandemic presented unique challenges resulting from 6 new reimbursement programs with constantly changing and confusing eligibility rules and requirements. Special appreciation to our finance team that worked with tenacity in this difficult environment to ensure our community benefited to the greatest extent possible. I would like to thank the entire city team for their dedication and resiliency. Each one of you has adjusted to an ever-changing environment with grace and professionalism. You have created innovative ways for our residents to connect while mostly homebound, and we're able to continue high service levels, certainly exceeding expectations in this difficult environment. I want to thank the family members of our city employees as well. You provided a support system that lifted up our employees and enabled them to do their best. The COVID-19 vaccine is arriving at a critical moment as our medical professionals are overextended and exhausted with hospitalizations hitting record highs. Many Texans will have to wait months before they can get the vaccine, and until then, we could experience unprecedented numbers of new infections. We must keep up our prevention steps of wearing a face covering, maintaining safe distancing from others not in your group, and washing hands often. When it is my turn for the vaccine, I will eagerly roll up my sleeve. I hope you do the same. The science is clear. This vaccine is safe and effective. Being vaccinated safely against COVID-19 will slow the spread of the pandemic and protect ourselves, our families, and our entire Rowlett community. A special thank you to our public safety officers on the front lines, our firefighters and police officers. Your dedication and professionalism were awe-inspiring during this challenging year. Rowlett is a growing city, which means public safety staff and facilities need to adapt to meet increasing demands. In fiscal year 2020, Rowlett experienced a 12% increase in Part 1 offenses, as defined by the Uniform Crime Reporting Program, primarily due to rising property type crimes such as burglary and theft. To address this situation, we increased police patrol staff by 8 positions, and we added an additional dispatch position to address a rising response time on Priority 1 calls. In fiscal year 2020, our police force responded to over 91,000 calls, including almost 1,300 Priority 1 calls. This was a 7.3% increase in Priority 1 calls. However, we are very pleased to report that because of our additional staffing levels, our average response time decreased by 16% year over year. And our increased dispatch staffing also netted good results with a 5.4% decrease in 911 average answer times to 4.06 seconds. In 2021 fiscal year, we are adding one additional police officer resource to our Crisis Assistance Program. It is not surprising to know that the mental health needs of our community are increasing rapidly due to the current economic downturn and impact of this pandemic. Last summer, our citizens in various groups in the city came together to exercise their constitutionally protected right to protest social injustice, which highlighted the issues faced by people of color across the nation. City leadership and law enforcement officials, including Rowlett police officers, engaged with our residents and heard citizen organizers, reaffirming our police department's commitment to safety and justice for all Rowlett citizens, regardless of race. During fiscal 2020, Rowlett Fire and Rescue responded to almost 6,000 calls, including over 4,500 Priority 1 calls, 87% or 4,000 of which were EMS calls. Unfortunately, Fire and Rescue saw a 6.3% increase in average response time to 6 minutes and 43 seconds. Additional staffing is needed for our growing community, and we are so pleased to report that the department was recently awarded a $2.7 million Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response, SAFER, grant from the Federal Emergency Management Agency. This grant will allow the fire department to enhance staffing, improve response times, decrease transport times, and elevate the capability for two-in, two-out firefighting operations. This is the second SAFER grant awarded to the department. The first, over $1.4 million, awarded in 2018, enabled the department to add 9 firefighters and complete the staffing plan for Fire Station 4. The two SAFER grants combined will result in a total savings to our citizens of over $4.1 million. Funded through the 2018 bond program, the new Fire Station number 2 is currently under construction and will be completed in May. This 19,500 square foot facility includes a fire station, state-of-the-art emergency operations center, a training room, and is designed to initially house 6 firefighter paramedics on a fire engine and a medic unit. The fire training tower was completed in 2020 and provides a valuable resource for training our public safety personnel. 7 years ago, the city developed a rolling 3-year bond program, resulting in successful bond elections in 2015 and 2018 that raised $85.7 million for needed capital improvements without negatively impacting the tax rate. Substantial capital project work was realized this year, including several neighborhood street, sidewalk, and drainage reconstruction projects at Dal Rock Estates, Highland Meadows, Lake Country South Ridge Addition, and Lakeland Heights, plus $2.1 million in neighborhood alley rehabilitation throughout the city. We also completed the reconstruction of Main Street, finished the fire training tower, and installed a new wet zone playground, a multi-purpose court at Twin Star Park, and a sidewalk and multi-purpose field at Community Park. Like every community, Rowlett continues to have critical infrastructure needs to meet both current and future demand. The citizen-led Community Investment Advisory Board and City Council have much to consider when formulating priorities for a potential 2021 bond election. The Advisory Board recently evaluated over $250 million in needed capital improvements in the areas of public safety, transportation infrastructure, and parks. If the city continues this 3-year bond strategy in 2021, we estimate that we could only fund approximately $40 million in general obligation bonds without an increase to the actual tax rate. The City Council anticipates bringing forth a proposal to our voters for a May 2021 election after careful consideration of recommendations from the Advisory Board and assessment of our community's needs and priorities. The city is also in dire need of several new facilities, including a public safety building, a public works facility, animal services, a permanent library, and a city hall. We have simply outgrown our current facilities, and many of our existing buildings are in a state of disrepair. We have recently completed a facilities assessment and are currently developing a phased-in plan to meet the needs of our community to full build-out over the next 10 to 20 years. We are realizing our community's vision to balance Rowlett's growth with its small-town feel to provide a place with affordable and diverse housing, quality restaurants and retail, and major employers, while caring for our existing neighborhoods and maintaining our roads and infrastructure. Since the adoption of Realize Rowlett 2020, the city has seen over $460 million in commercial private investment, with over 2,700 jobs being created. And even amidst the challenges brought by 2020, Rowlett welcomed over 30 new businesses with $40 million in private commercial investment projects, resulting in over 250 new jobs. Additionally, our commercial sales tax base experienced $720 million in taxable sales. While this represented a modest 0.4% increase year over year, it was an extraordinary achievement given the pandemic, as well as the loss of a major sales taxpayer who moved their corporate purchasing functions from Rowlett to Arlington. Growth was experienced in the retail and food restaurant industries, which saw a robust 26% increase in 2020, while telecom, utility providers, and other industries were down nearly a like amount. We are fortunate that new development and construction continues, even when many other areas are experiencing work stoppages and delays. We expect to see an additional $1 billion of private commercial investment over the next 5 to 7 years, which will help provide needed resources through property and sales taxes to help fund our future infrastructure needs. And in February of this year, Rowlett received designation from the American Association of Retired Persons as an AARP age-friendly community. We have strategically placed a high priority on fostering a community that is welcoming, engaging, and inclusive for people of all ages. And this designation was made possible after several months of collaboration between AARP, the City of Rowlett Parks and Recreation Department, and the Rowlett Senior Advisory Board. I am so grateful for the active partnerships, public and community leadership, and our citizens' enduring commitment to volunteerism. These connections make our Rowlett stronger, as proven during the response to the 2015 tornado and further demonstrated throughout this pandemic. Special gratitude for our faith organizations, our nonprofit community, our hospitals, our healthcare workers, and other frontline team members for everything they did and continue to do to elevate our residents during a remarkable time of need. Each one of you working in these fields are heroes and will forever be in our debt for your extraordinary service. Yes, this past year has been different and certainly challenging. However, Rowlett's future is so bright. I'm looking forward to the next year's State of the City, when our council chambers are full again and we can all be together to share the amazing progress we have made during 2021. I want to close by saying thank you. Thank you for the privilege to serve as your mayor and for the opportunity to continue to make Rowlett the place to live, work, and play.